if you're bringing a secret to your spouse, think about how you're going to do that, where you're going to do that, when you're going to do that. Probably a bad idea is as you are going to bed, they roll over the other way and you say, oh, by the way, I have been...
Welcome to We Do Whatever It Takes, a marriage podcast with a magician and an almost therapist, where you get tips and tricks for creating a great marriage.
Welcome back to another episode of We Do Whatever It Takes.com. A marriage podcast where we're giving you tips and tricks on how to create a great marriage.
I'm Kimberly.
And I'm Danny Ray.
Here we go.
So what are we talking about today, babe?
Secrets.
Ooh, secrets. Secrets kill.
Except that I hear it's okay for you as a magician to have secrets.
I've got a lot of them.
People ask me that all the time. So does he tell you how he does all the tricks?
What do you tell them?
No. Actually, what I usually say is that when we were dating, I thought, oh, surely he'll tell me how he does this stuff. But no, you didn't. And I thought, okay, when we're engaged, he'll tell me. No, he did not. Okay, when we get married, I'm sure he'll tell me how he does the magic tricks. And you know what? By then, I gave up. I didn't care anymore.
Were you over magic by that point? You're like, I don't want to see another magic trick from you.
Not over it, but definitely had learned to appreciate not knowing how things are done. So that way, I've seen some of these tricks a gazillion times, and however many that is. And I'm still really, really glad that I don't know how it's done, because I can still be in awe and still just be just as impressed as I was the first time I saw them. So that is the one and only place I can see where secrets might be okay.
What if I work for the CIA secretly?
Oh, dang, I didn't think of that. Okay, maybe there are a couple of places that people could justify keeping secrets, and it might be okay.
It's kind of like we've talked about before, like lying under most circumstances, right? It is wrong, but
99% of the time.
Yeah, but there are times where in the Bible it's like, well, they lied, but they did the right thing.
Yeah.
And you see that in rare circumstances. And I think the same thing with secrets is in rare circumstances, keeping a secret. And we're not talking about like a surprise birthday party. We're talking about hiding something that would be important to your spouse. So for example, if you had like a secret cash stack that's just for you.
I hear that happens.
I would like it. Does
No,
happen.
I don't have that. Yeah, I know it happens.
I was like, does it happen in this household?
No. This is not a confession thing. No.
Oh wow, I'd love it if you confessed right now that you got a stack of money that I don't know about.
I wish. Nope.
So, but some spouses like they know, like, hey, I've got a little secret stash, and that secret's open, right? But it's when you're hiding something that might take away from paying the bills, that might take away from being close together. And the question becomes like, why are you hiding? And I'm not talking about money now. I'm just talking about anything. Why would you hide something from your best friend? Why would you hide something from your spouse? And so we want to look at that today.
I have a guess at that answer, why we hide things.
Oh, yeah. What do you think?
I'm going to go with most of the time because we think or believe, or maybe it isn't safe to tell those things to our spouse, to the other person.
So protecting ourselves or protecting them?
We can justify both, right? There are some times where we think we're protecting them. Oh, they would just die if they knew the truth.
I feel like you're hiding something.
Promise you I'm not hiding anything. But so sometimes we're protecting ourselves, though, and sometimes we think we're trying to protect the other person. But ultimately, the other person always gets far more upset with the fact that the secret was hidden than if they had just confessed whatever the original sin or screw up was, right?
The original sin
sin.
Here on We Do Whatever. That's funny.
Well, okay, we could talk about that. The original sin, right, was the first thing that Adam and Eve did.
Ooh, you were bringing it, girl.
Yeah. What's the first thing?
So they went into hiding.
They went into hiding.
Yeah, I wasn't even thinking to go
I
there,
know,
but that's
right?
good,
But
yeah.
you brought up, well, I guess I said original sin and you made a big deal out of it. So that's how we got here, right? So, and that had to do with shame. They were embarrassed. They knew they did something wrong, and they went into hiding. But that's not the relationship God wanted with them, right?
So you're saying you might have fig leaves available if you're keeping a secret?
No, we have a metaphoric fig leaf. I think that we, people tend to hide behind, and they don't want to get caught or whatever. So we're going to say it is very crucial, very important to not keep secrets from each other.
One of the things we've talked about a lot is this idea of secrets bring us into hiding.
Yeah.
And as we grow in our relationship, not just with each other in terms of marriage, but in terms with our children, with our families, with our friends, is we learn to come out of hiding and to be transparent. Now, we can't be transparent with everyone, but those people that are close to us, how do we learn to come out of hiding and be real with who we are and stop keeping secrets? And there's things that not everybody needs to know, but certainly your spouse, we want to be able to be an open book to them and be able to share our heart and our life in secrets. So what would you say if somebody has a secret they've been holding on to? And we're not talking about like a secret relationship, because that's just like one of those things like, that's clearly wrong. You need to stop.
That's cheating.
That's cheating. That's adultery.
Yeah.
Let's call it what it is, right?
Good.
But if you have something where you're hiding something from your spouse, can you give an example of that?
You already said the money thing. I think, some people get caught with texts, right? They're texting somebody else and so maybe it's not adultery yet, but maybe they're texting somebody that they shouldn't, or it's somebody looking up an old Facebook, or, somebody on
that
Facebook that's an old
connection with other people besides your spouse, where you're longing for that deeper connection with somebody else outside of the marriage relationship.
That can be something that people hide, right?
And it seems innocent because it's just like, oh, I'm looking up an old girlfriend. But I think we've all seen it fall apart. At least we have over and over again.
Over and over.
Yeah. So that doesn't end well. So yeah, stop that one.
Right. I'd say other secrets, it can be something to do with addiction. It could be drinking. It could be, things that...
That was probably our first, is where, I had struggled with pornography, and that was probably one of those things where I was like, how do I approach that? How do I talk to you about that? And that was one of those first steps of like coming out of hiding and being honest with you. And that's such a mixed bag, because then you feel insecure and you feel like you're not enough. And then I'm like, no, it's not about that. And so we
had a lot to learn, to work through that for sure.
Yeah.
But it took guts on your part to come and say, hey, look, this is what's going on, what I'm dealing with. And this was early on for us. This is a long time ago now.
Yeah.
But it's when we had to learn to navigate that and go, okay. And I'm not going to say that my reaction was great. I honestly don't fully remember how I reacted, but I know it wasn't like, oh, that's okay, babe. We'll just, I have my own insecurities that came up as soon as you shared that. But I would say that I think we've both worked on being a safe place, being a safe person to share our secrets with, right? So if I bring up something to you and I've been agonizing over it, oh my gosh, I need to tell him, and finally I sit down, I tell you, and there are two ways you can react. You can react as a safe place, and at least, doesn't mean you're not going to be upset, but maybe at least I feel, okay, he heard me and still is going to be there for me. But the other reaction is somebody, getting furious and just flying off the handle, and now what, right? That's not safe. That's not, I don't feel like that. Oh, well, that was worth it. At least I shared with you. But but now your reaction wasn't. So sometimes we have to check ourselves and go, okay, am I a safe place for you to share those secrets?
So What do you do though when somebody walks in and they drop that bomb like, hey, after work, I haven't been going out to have dinner with coworkers. I've been going to the strip club. Or, hey, I have this secret bank account that has thousands of dollars that I've been spending, week after week. And so I know we've been struggling with bills. But, so what do we do when on both sides, like how do we respond to that? And how are we open? Because we want to build that trust with each other, with our spouse. But what would you say is like the best way to handle that?
So many ways I can go with that. But one of the things I'm thinking about is the safe, the location, right? Like if you're bringing a secret to your spouse, think about how you're going to do that, where you're going to do that, when you're going to do that. Probably a bad idea is as you are going to bed, they roll over the other way and you say, oh, by the way, I have been, going to the strip clubs after work instead of coming home to you and the kids or whatever it is. Not a good idea, right? So really being intentional about how to share that, being understanding that the other person needs some time to really react to it, to hear it, whatever it is that you're bringing. It can't just be, well, I'm sure it'll roll off of them. It'll be just fine when I just drop this huge bomb on them.
What about, so you're saying like finding a safe place. So what should that distance be though? That they hear the podcast today and they go, you know what? I've got all these secrets. Do I wait to share those? Do I wait for the right time, the right place, the right location? All the place and location, same thing. But you get the idea, right? Is how long do I wait before I make that decision to pull the trigger to be honest with those things?
That's a really good question. And I am no expert in this. I will keep reiterating that. Not a licensed therapist.
An almost therapist. But as an almost therapist, and you've done lots of counseling over the years, and you've been in this situation. What are some of the things in terms of that distance in terms of time that you wait once you realize, you know what, I do need to approach it?
Yeah, ideally you don't keep waiting, right? We don't want to just keep sitting on this because there's a distance between the two of you.
Yeah.
Whether you acknowledge it or realize it, because that secret's there.
But what if the secret creates more distance?
There is great potential for that.
Yeah.
But there's also potential for healing and reconciliation.
Yes, that's what I was going to say. Yes.
Go for it.
There's always risk.
Yeah.
Right? We don't get to be risk-free whether we keep the secret or whether we share the secret.
Yeah, there's risk both ways.
There's risk both ways. You risk getting caught one way, and getting caught's a horrible thing on both sides.
Yep. And it's going to be way worse.
Yeah, that rebuilding trust can take time. Where if you're vulnerable and go, you know what, I've screwed up. I want to tell you what's going on. But yeah, so that's the first.
Real quick, there's something admirable about that too. Like if once you've heard from your spouse what they're confessing and what they're, hopefully an apology goes with it. Hey, this is what I'm struggling with, and I'm sorry for however it's hurt you, or those kinds of things. But hopefully, at some point, we can recognize the risk that our spouse took, and be grateful, quite honestly, that they shared, because they brought.
We could go back to episode 3 or 2, or what was the episode where we did gratitude? Check it out on thankfulness and the power of thankfulness. Even in this situation, these things apply of, I'm thankful that I have a spouse that's vulnerable. I'm thankful that you're no longer holding secrets. I'm thankful. So it's difficult to do, but these things are all intertwined together on how we deal with a relationship and how we connect with one another and love one another in the context of difficult things.
Yeah. Because if you share something and you can respect that on some level, that, okay, at least they told me. Yeah, they were hiding it, and now we have to build up trust. I'm not saying that goes away, but we need to be thankful that we didn't maybe find out through searching their phone or through, there has to be some kind of eventually going, okay, at least they told me that. And
Right.
that was risky and hard. And I recognize that. And I appreciate you sharing it. Now let's deal with this. But so I'm not saying it's easy. Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's not easy. And that's some of what we're going to get into on the next episode, where we're going to be looking at trust and how that impacts our relationships and how we build that, how we lose that. And so the second thing, so you talked about a safe place,
Yeah.
right? And I said location.
Yeah.
Same word. But there's having that courage to share too.
Yeah.
And so going like, I need to trust that in this situation that my spouse, they said, do or die, like I do, not in good times only, but in sickness and in health. And right now I have some unhealthy habits and I want to bring those up. And so having
Wait,
that
right now?
courage-
Right
No,
now?
not right.
Okay, just checking.
I think you know everything, girl.
Okay, which I appreciate.
I will keep you posted, but
Okay.
at this point, I don't have any secrets.
So that courage is exactly the word I was looking for earlier. I think that it takes a lot of courage to share, to be vulnerable, even with our spouse, and say, "Hey, I screwed up. Here's what happened, and I need you to know this information." And yeah, that takes courage, and hopefully, if we're on the receiving end of that, we can say, just remember that, gosh, that did take them a lot of courage to share that. Yeah, I would have liked to have known sooner. Ultimately, I would have loved to have them not screw up in the first place or whatever
course.
it was,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Right. So, yeah, that's the ideal, but that's not what happened. And so at least recognizing that they had some courage to eventually share it.
And I think one of those strategies for us is like when either one of us is bringing something big to the other person, is to prepare them for that and to kind of take a deep breath and go like, okay, let me process how I want to respond instead of just the other person saying something and now you're like, what? Why would you, and you're immediately into like those always and never statements or things that you
Bad
wouldn't
idea.
want to react that way. So just trying to take a deep breath, process, and maybe even letting your spouse know like, hey, it took us a little bit, it took you a while to get to this point.
Yeah.
Let me have some space to process this.
Yes, because you've been wrestling, you've had the information, you've
Right.
known what's going on, whatever your secret is. But your spouse doesn't. This is brand new information they're receiving right now for the first time. And yeah, we got to give them some space to process that because that's not easy. So I think that's a great point for sure.
Yeah, the next thing I would say is really trying to understand your spouse's needs. Is on both sides, is what is it that led them to? I'm just going to take the money thing just because it's on top of my mind right now. Is if they're hiding money, why do they feel like they need to hide money? What's that leading back to? And what oftentimes you'll see is it has little to do with you, but more like childhood issues. Maybe, when they were kids, they didn't have any money. Maybe there's something a parent said that, is stuck in their head. There's different things that, of why we do the things we do. And I think digging in, and that's where, going to counseling and going to
An
licensed,
actual therapist.
I was going to say an actual
That's fine.
An almost therapist. So
Go to an actual therapist, please.
yeah, and finding out like, hey, I'm doing this and I'm not sure why. They might be able to help you get to the bottom of that.
Yeah, for
But
sure.
regardless, trying to understand your spouse's needs and not just looking at what do you want out of this or why am I doing this, but how can I help serve them and help them become the person they're designed to be? And that's just a different approach, a different perspective to take on things.
Very. It reminds me of your idea of keeping the end in mind, right? So ultimately,
Not mine, Stephen Covey, but
oh,
okay.
sorry. Okay, you stole it. Okay.
7 Habits of Highly Effective People.
Oh,
Yes.
excellent book. Okay, good to know that's where it came from. Sorry.
I use it a lot, but it is not my idea.
But it's not yours. Thank you for giving him the credit. That's good. So using that idea, keeping that end in mind,
Right.
Okay, so I'm going to share my secret with you, but ultimately, what do I want how do I want this to unfold? Not that it's going to unfold exactly how I want it to, because I'd love it if you just went, oh, that's okay, and we moved on, because that's not realistic.
Right.
But why am I bringing it to you? I want to bring it to you because I want to share what's been going on inside of me and why I've been distant and what's right, how, and to bring healing. Ultimately, the conflict or the process and the having that secret doesn't mean the sharing of it doesn't mean that that's necessarily bad. That can bring us closer, right? When we talk about it, when we get it out there, but keeping that, whatever it is, a secret, it's going to keep driving you apart.
I think that's those two words are interesting that you use to say that secrets create this distance.
Yeah.
But the possibility is that when we share, is that it brings healing and brings us closer. And that's what we want for you is,
for sure.
Yeah, we want you to experience the healing that's only possible on the other side of sharing your secrets. So when you said with the end in mind, it makes me think about when I'm creating a show.
Okay.
And you've seen, I've created a number of shows over the years.
Magic shows, yeah.
Yeah, yes, thank you, magic shows. And so I'm always thinking about the end. When I was doing Underwater Escapes, right, it was kind of this terrifying moment and asking him the question of, like, when you take your last breath, where are you going to be? What, so what's your end game? What's your strategy with marriage? What's your end game?
Yeah.
When the current show I have, where literally I'm throwing things all over the stage.
You're so messy.
It is a crazy mess. And then at the end of it, I ask that question of, like, what if in the middle of your mess that God shows up? What if in the middle of your mess we pray, we just want out, but God's like, no, I want to meet you in the middle of your mess and speak to you and transform you right here, right now. Yeah. And so I think of our marriages that might feel messy at times. It's in the center of that, where we experience that healing and we could experience that proximity, that closeness to one another. But it's a choice that we make. Go ahead.
I was just thinking, you said the healing, part of that healing is reconciliation. And I'll probably address this repeatedly because I think it's so important. But in short, it's not enough to just say to somebody, I'm sorry, right? So if we're sticking with our secrets theme today, it's not okay to just dump on the other person, hey, there's my secret, deal with it, I'm out. Like, see you later. Now you wrestle with it,
Right.
That's not appropriate. That's not acceptable. So when you're ready to share whatever it is, you also better be ready to say, hey, I'm sorry. And this is the reconciliation piece that I think so many people in our culture miss. What can I do to make you feel better? How can I help?
How can I make this right?
Yeah. And ultimately, okay, maybe you can't go back in time and fix something, but in this moment, or maybe you don't have an answer. Maybe I share a big secret with you and then I say, I'm so sorry, and I really am. And what can I do to make you feel better? First of all, that's a very vulnerable question and not easy, I'll admit, for myself to ask you. You seem to be better at that than I am. But I force myself to do it. And then there are always good results in that. Sometimes your answer is, I don't know. Like, I don't know what's going to make me feel better right now. So you can try asking again later. Other times we might say, I need a hug. I need space. I need, can we just sit down and watch a movie together side by side and something funny?
Can we go to bed together?
Okay, that might be your go-to response, what you'd like to happen. But that's not always going to be the...
What?
I know. So
What's
sorry.
What's the point of fighting then?
Yeah, you wish. I don't think makeup sex is always the answer, but...
I don't know.
All right. Do it.
You'll have to talk me out of that one.
However, our listeners, but it always has to be a joint decision on that kind of thing. So,
but forgiveness leading to reconciliation.
There you go.
And that reconciliation, here's one of the things I was going to say that we both do is in terms of like, what can I do to make you feel better?
Yeah.
Sometimes the answers, I'm going to get accountability in this area, and that's going to help to draw that line. And so hypothetically, if I was seeing my secretary, which you were for a little bit,
I've been your secretary.
I was like, ooh, before she quit on me, went off to grad school.
Story.
You got fired.
You helped me go to grad school. What are you talking about?
I love that you went to grad school in the middle of a crazy season in our lives. That you just made some decisions to do some great things during that season. So.
I appreciate that. But I did leave you as your secretary.
Yes,
so
you did.
Moving on.
And I miss you every day, but I know you're exactly where God wants you to be, and so that excites me. So
thank you.
But with accountability so hypothetically, if you were feeling attraction to your secretary and you haven't crossed a line, but you feel like it's not something you can talk to your spouse about, and then eventually you're like, you know what, I need to address it. I keep having these feelings come up. You address it with your spouse, but you also get accountability of somebody who can help keep that line in the sand. So on an off day with your spouse, you don't end up making a decision that you regret.
Yeah, for sure. That's such a great offering to get accountability, and not just offering, but saying, I'm going to get accountability in this area. I'm going to ask a friend to check in on me and just say, hey, how's that going with that issue you brought to me, right? That's a really good way to deal with it.
So we wanted to leave you with a fun idea for maybe if we look at secrets not as just something that's this dark, deep secret, but just simply something we don't know.
Okay.
This is something we implemented a long time ago. It actually started with our children. When they were small, they're huge now, but when they were small, they weren't allowed to have soda. Like when we would go to McDonald's or whatever, it was just like, here's a burger, here's fries, but no soda, right? And
it was too expensive.
I know. It was ways of saving money back in the day. And so we were at a camp in Southern California, and we're there, and they had these Jones drink. It's a Canada drink. It's
in a glass bottle, right?
Bright
and have cool
blue.
colors.
I mean, they have cool colors, but the one Spencer wanted was like, ooh, it's like glowing blue.
Of course.
So the deal that we made was, I'll buy a drink for you.
Okay.
If you share a secret, and a secret's just something that I don't know. So it could be like, oh, I like this girl, or he wasn't really that age yet. That became later on. So, but we've used this with our children and each other for years. Is to this day, it's like, hey, you want to go out for a secret drink, and in that, it could be anything. It could be a story like, oh, I want to share this story. I went for this bike ride and I fell down. It was funny, and I forgot to tell you years ago, or whatever.
So it's just something I haven't shared with you before, or at least nowadays I think I haven't shared it with you. I think I'm giving you a secret story with a secret drink, and usually you go, yeah, I know, I've heard that one, but. People still starting out might still have some stories that their spouse hasn't heard yet.
Yeah, so that's a fun way you could start to share secrets. And as you learn to trust each other with those smaller things, you can learn to trust each other with larger things, which leads us into the next episode where we're going to be talking all about trust and how do you build it.
Yes.
And I think we all know how to break it. So we don't need to talk about that.
Excellent point.